Hi there, everyone. Welcome back to On the Flip Side. My name is Adam Shawwalker, your host, and today I've got something a little bit different. For those of you unfamiliar with 4chan, it's a simple image board site where users post anonymously. And there are many different boards with many different subjects and focuses, but today we're just going to be looking at one in particular, Mew, otherwise known as the music board. I've been off and on the music board for about 10 years now. Some of the best and worst takes I have ever seen have been on this site. So yesterday I made a thread, post your hottest takes, I want to see some arguments. And I let it sit, and these are some of the posts that caught my eye. In no particular order, I'm going to go through these and give you my thoughts. Past this point, we are going completely off script. Trout Mask Replica isn't really redeeming, funny, original, or innovative in any ways. It's an abusive, pseudo-schizo, try-hard piece of snobbery. Anyone that says they actually enjoy it or like it are literally just pretending to be zany. Real ones know there are much better, earlier, experimental albums. Trout Mask Replica is one of those albums that I think has become synonymous with just being kind of a dickhead with your music taste. Because when you do listen to it, you have like one of two reactions. One, usually being just turning the damn thing off, and two, kind of just blunt forcing your way through it. So yeah, Trout Mask Replica, being redeeming or funny or original or innovative, I don't necessarily agree entirely. I think that it is innovative and that it is just kind of one of the most psychotic pieces of music out there, on top of the backstory of Captain Beefheart just sort of tormenting his band members to get the damn thing right, even though it is one of like the least coherent pieces of music ever written. I do kind of agree with the fact that anyone who is saying they're enjoying it are kind of just pretending to a certain extent. I think that it is kind of enjoyable as like a listen through it once and never check it out again kind of a thing. Like I have listened to Trout Mask Replica in my life twice, and the second time was I didn't need to. Let It Be is the worst Beatles album, even though it has some alright tracks, because it's a big step down after albums like Abbey Road, The White Album, Pepper, and Revolver, Please Please Me, plus A Hard Day's Night, plus Beatles for Sale, plus Help over Let It Be. I mean, personally, my take on the Beatles is just that all you really need to listen to is Revolver and Rubber Soul. Everything else, I mean, has some tracks. Like the White Album has some good ass tracks on it, but I am not really the biggest Beatles guy, nor have I ever been. But even still, anything that I've heard off of Let It Be, I have just not generally liked. Grand Theft Auto 5 has the best radio stations. Cocteau Twins are the pinnacle of music. Music has already peaked and it is now in a death spiral. So we got three things there. GTA 5, as far as I'm concerned, I got nothing. Never played the damn thing. Cocteau Twins are the pinnacle of music. No. Music has already peaked and now it is in a death spiral. I think this kind of falls into the same argument as like being born in the wrong generation. I think that this is just being nitpicky and nonsensical for the sake of like appealing to the doomers out there. Like, oh, music is in a death spiral, but it's like, it's just being reinvented all the time. And yeah, there's going to be good shit and bad shit, but like the good stuff is always going to kind of stand out and rise to the top, and the bad stuff is generally going to be forgotten about pretty quickly. I mean, considering how many large nu metal bands there were around the early 2000s and how many of them have just completely fallen off, it's kind of like, yeah, of course you could view a lot of this as like, oh, music is in a death spiral, but no, I think it's just time marching on. In the Aeroplane Over the Sea is one of the best albums ever made. I was looking for hot takes. I think this is a pretty cold take, actually. I think, I think that's a fact. Metal wouldn't exist without the influence of punk. I'm pretty sure most metal predates punk. I don't necessarily disagree for all of the metal genres. I mean, thrash and crossover, obviously you're gonna get punk in there, but like, I think a lot of that stuff is happening at the same time, but I think metal predates it by just like a few years. 99% of the music posted here that people listen to is literal trash. Also, you're lame for listening to old people music. Also, old people fuck off. Yep. Radiohead is overrated as shit. OK Computer is an 8.5 out of 10 at best. No. Radiohead is one of those bands that kind of grew on me a little bit later in life, and I always feel like I kind of missed out on listening to them early on when I had more time. And it's not like I haven't listened to OK Computer and In Rainbows and Kid A over and over again, but there are a lot of albums that I discovered earlier that I played to death, and Radiohead just wasn't in that lineup, so they're just one of those bands that I wish I had more exposure to, or at least more of an appreciation of early on, so that I did play those albums out, because even now it still feels like maybe I'm missing some shit. I mean, OK Computer is a fantastic album. I don't think calling it an 8 out of 10 at best is like, I don't think that's fair. I genuinely think it is one of the best albums of all time. To call it an 8.5 out of 10 is kind of ridiculous in my opinion, but I think 8.5 out of 10 is still not an awful score, but calling it at best is that's pretty rough. Music is gay and retarded. I couldn't have said it better myself. Ed Sheeran is good, he's just overplayed. No. Never gotten the hype around Close to the Edge. To me, it just feels like a dry run for topographic oceans, and it's just a lot of ideas crammed into 3 songs without any coherency. Man, I've kind of just been coming to terms with the fact that I kind of just dislike a lot of prog rock. And I do enjoy a lot of Yes, and I do enjoy a lot of the Steven Wilson shit, but like, you know, there's plenty of prog out there that I have fallen in and out of love with over the years. I used to really enjoy Opeth, and then I don't know what happened, man, but something just like turned off. Like, you know, music clicks and then it unclicks sometimes, and prog rock as a genre, with the exception of like a few bands and a few albums, I have kind of just like let fall by the wayside, because I'm not 14 anymore. I don't have to pretend that like this pseudo deep music is the most interesting thing on earth, and not that it's all like pseudo intellectual. There is some deep shit and there's some interesting stuff here, and the musicianship is fantastic, but I don't need to fucking listen to like most Jethro Tull records anymore. Rush fucking rips though. Rush always rips. Lana Del Rey's voice and music is literally unlistenable. My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy sucks. Also, I'm not a huge Kanye guy, and as far as the recent shit with Kanye goes, I don't really care about any of that stuff. I think most of it is incredibly entertaining in kind of like a Sam Hyde sort of a way. Although I think in the case of Sam Hyde, the guy is actually probably smart, I think. As for Kanye, I think that he might actually just be completely fucking unhinged. Which, hey, you know, millionaires, billionaires making asses of themselves, I mean, that's pretty big lately. I'm really into that. All rap and modern pop sounds like it was made by a 3-year-old, and if you enjoy any of that music, you are stupid. I don't really know if I have much of a rebuttal for this one, other than, man, just like leave your house. Like, fuck, man, go to a hip-hop concert, just of like any kind. Actually, maybe not any kind. Like, don't go to like see Tech 9 or any shit like that, but like go to a hip-hop show and just kind of take it all in. I'm not saying like get super fucked up, and I'm not saying like socialize a fuckload. I'm just saying like just observe and take it all in, because man, I think that that's a shallow and like an unfair assessment of that genre. I think a lot of people write off hip-hop for like no fucking reason. When I was a kid, I think this plays back into like the I'm 14 and this is deep type of shit. A lot of people that I knew, like, you know, had that kind of boomer look of like rap equals crap type shit, and I just think, oh man, that is just so fucking whack. And I don't think it's healthy. You know, I think that any genre of music is going to have some amount of credibility to it. I think that people who like are like, oh, I love metal, but I hate rap and hip hop, and I hate, you know, country, but Johnny Cash is okay. I mean, like that is kind of just the stereotypical like white guy douchebag opinion of music. Like, just fucking listen to something. It's gonna catch at some point, and you're gonna find something that you're like, fuck, like, you know, I shouldn't have written this off because I would have found this way sooner. Volume 4 by Sabbath is total shit, and Sabotage is mid. David Bowie has at least 5 filler tracks on every album. 90% of metal songs over 5 minutes could lose 1.5 to 2 minutes, especially thrash and death metal songs. Velvet Underground is gay, and City Pop is good. First of all, how dare you? Fuck, man, don't talk about Sabbath. David Bowie having at least 5 filler tracks on every album, I kind of agree with a little bit. Maybe not 5, but like, there's filler on every Bowie album. Maybe not a hunky-dory. 90% of metal songs over 5 minutes could lose 1.5 to 2 minutes, especially thrash and death. Yes. Velvet Underground is gay. Yeah, but it's good. City Pop is good. Yeah. Is it a hot take to say that every indie pop group sounds exactly the same, and I mean literally indistinguishable from one another? I don't know if that's the hottest take I've ever heard. I think that's kind of a lukewarm take depending on who you ask. I don't necessarily agree with it, but I also don't think it is the most outlandish shit that I've heard, especially not even just in this video. EDM is actually a genre, and it sucks. Yes. Mostly yes. There's some EDM that I think is okay. I think some res tracks are alright, but I think a lot of EDM, mostly my issue with it is culturally, I think it's kind of a waste to go to these festivals where you're just gonna get fucked up and like not remember your weekend at all anyway. Like, I've met plenty of people who have burnt like thousands of dollars going to EDM festivals and they don't remember the goddamn festival. And I'm not saying that that's the entire crowd, but I think that's the main audience, is just people looking to get out of the house and get fucked up somewhere. And I also think it just genuinely makes people worse people. Not because of the music, not because the music's bad or because the music makes you stupid, but I think the culture around EDM is just generally unhealthy from like a societal standpoint. It's unsustainable. It's sort of like that Burning Man type shit, like where people just go like way the fuck out in the middle of nowhere. And obviously this isn't every like EDM festival, but it's like these large gatherings of people that are like art and like especially psychedelic based are just, I think they're kind of weak. I think that they are kind of transparent. I think a lot of the times people go to those places to escape instead of focusing on what the fuck is actually bothering them. And yeah, I'm really not into it. That's not to say I have necessarily a problem with drugs. I just have a problem with people who use music and art as a way to justify their drug consumption and their problems. Unless you like fully admit it, like I don't care if you're just like I'm like a fucking like unapologetic junkie fuck, then, you know, cool. But if you're gonna like act like it's some sort of spiritual thing, and you're gonna wear your fucking pashmina and your baggy goddamn shorts, and you're gonna get your sacred geometry tattoos and shit, like you know, cool, but like you're just a modern day hippie, and not in a cool sense, like in the kind of like, you know, I'm white and don't understand the shit behind this kind of a way. Like, I think it's just totally lame. I really don't like guitar-centric jazz. Man, listen to trumpet-centric jazz. Things that make me think you have shit taste and aren't an interesting person. I like music, but genre X is shit. I've never been to a concert before. Electronic music is easy to make. I've tried playing an instrument, but have no talent. Yeah, I think that this is a pretty standard viewpoint for plenty of people who are kind of assholes about music, myself included. The whole, yeah, I like music, but X genre is shit plays back into that shit I was talking about earlier with the, you know, like, oh, like, you know, I like country, but like Johnny Cash is cool. Like, it's the same kind of person, which I think is just kind of shitty. I've never been to a concert before. I think it's kind of a weird take because there are plenty of people who just kind of live in the middle of fucking nowhere and, you know, probably aren't going to get out to many concerts at all. On top of the fact that some people just don't really like crowds, so I don't necessarily think that is a argument that has much validity to it. Electronic music is easy to make. Yeah, definitely. I think that if people are viewing electronic music as like an easy output or an easy form of like raking in music cred or whatever, I think that that's a stupid take as well. Even with the EDM shit, like I was saying before, like I was saying, I'm not super into EDM and I think it's kind of shitty. That music, like I couldn't fucking make it. I don't think most people can make a good EDM. I think a lot of electronic music is just seriously underappreciated because half the time it is just like one guy. Like you listen to like Fatboy Slim, or you listen to BT, or even fucking like Skrillex. Like all of these artists are putting in a lot of fucking work, and man, I've tried to fuck with synthesizers and shit like that. I have no goddamn idea what I'm doing. Any of these people that think electronic music is just, you know, letting the computer play the notes, I mean, unless it's like a pre-recorded set, and even in those cases I don't give a shit, because like in a live setting with a pre-recorded set, no one's gonna give a shit. Like they are just there to fucking party. Anyway, past that, yeah, I think that's a weak take, and if that's your thing, you're a fucking idiot. I've tried playing an instrument but have no talent. I think this is also kind of a weak take. I don't necessarily think if someone says that makes them, you know, like dumb or boring or anything like that. I think that a lot of people are just really discouraged because a lot of instruments are just really fucking time consuming to learn. And I've tried to get plenty of people to like play guitar and like just say, hey, you know, pick it up, just play, like strum something. Like it doesn't even have to be a real note or a chord or anything, just like strum. And some of the times they just can't fucking, like they don't wrap their heads around it. And you know, that's that's okay, because half the time they're pretty good at something else. So I don't necessarily think that that's an indicator of being boring or stupid or lacking being an interesting person. There's no point in listening to classic albums. No. Yes and no. I think that there's plenty of albums that you can potentially skip over. I think that there are a list of essential classic albums. I mean, you got fucking Dark Side of the Moon, obviously, Led Zeppelin 4, yes, you know, like there's a lot of stuff that you should listen to that are classics, but there's just as much stuff that falls into that like umbrella of classic that I think is just like totally unimportant. Or maybe there's like 1 or 2 songs on some of these records that are fantastic, but like you don't need to ever listen to a Chicago record all the way through fucking ever. Blink-182 is really very good and probably the best representation of a fantastic band in the past 25 years. Let's take it literally, 1997 to now, Blink-182 is your choice for the best representation of a fantastic band in the past 25 years. People only pretend to care about the bass guitar because they think it makes them sound like they have a patrician level of music understanding when they mention the bass guitar. 90% of the time it's so low in the mix you can't even hear it clearly, but you go into any YouTube comment section and you'll see someone mention how it is the best bass riff ever. And drum machines have obsoleted drummers. Now having a live drummer is basically a novelty, like when rock bands had 2 drummers. Any attempt by the drummer to do a solo or show off is once again just a novelty thing. It doesn't help with the creation of music. Of course they'll make a novelty song that's drum focused and you're supposed to like it because true musicians are supposed to like it. Moby Dick is a perfect example. Nobody listens to that on repeat. I kind of think that this opinion is based, but I also think it's incredibly stupid. I think that this is like confidently incorrect to the point that I actually like it. You know, I don't agree with either of these. Actually, I kind of agree with the drum machine thing a little bit, like just a little bit, mostly because like Sisters of Mercy had like a Dr. Avalanche, their drum machine, and fuck man, you listen to those records, you can't fucking tell. I think certain genres of music lend themselves to needing a live drummer, but like in most situations, you don't necessarily need to have live drums anymore, especially with how good drum sims are getting. I don't actually like music that much, but I've put so much time and money into it that at this point I can't go back. Oh man, why is this weirdly relatable? It's not even that I dislike music, but like, man, starting this YouTube channel, fuck, there's been a lot of albums that I've listened to that I've not fucking enjoyed. And it's put me in a place where it's like, man, do I want to actually listen to this album or do I want to actually listen to something that I like? So while I don't necessarily resonate with this 100%, I think that there is some parts of this that I feel ya. Even though I enjoy Red, it is one of the worst King Crimson albums. Definitely the worst one before the metal era. Starless and Bible Black is just a much better experience overall. I will not stand for this. Anyway, carrying on. Video game music should be lauded much more than it is. Some works even constitute high art in my view. No professional music critic is worth listening to, especially if they're named Christgau and Fantano. Lou Reed is a hack and his shit sucks. On that first point, yes, there's absolutely some fantastic video game soundtracks. I absolutely love the soundtrack for Abzu by Austin Wintory. Actually, I think anything by Austin Wintory is some of the best soundtrack work that I've ever heard. He also did the soundtrack for Journey, as well as all of the Banner Saga games, which are fantastic. If you haven't checked those out, you should, because I think they fly under a lot of people's radars. But yes, video game music is fucking incredible, depending on what it is and who's done it. There is definitely some stuff that I would call masterpiece material. No professional music critic is worth listening to, especially if they're named Christgau and Fantano. Yes, this is including myself. Don't listen to me. Just form your own fucking opinion and watch my videos if you want. I don't give a shit. Lou Reed is a hack and his shit sucks. I mean, no, but like, I kind of get why you would think that. Despite arguably being more successful in the 70s, the Rolling Stones were basically creatively bankrupt and artistically irrelevant after Let It Bleed. The Rolling Stones peaked at their Satanic Majesty's request. I will be answering no further questions. This one just says it's good with a picture of Black Sabbath's Technical Ecstasy as the image for the post. Yeah, it is good. Okay, that's pretty much all for now. Thank you all so much for watching. Drop your musical hot takes in the comments below, and maybe we'll do another one of these sometime soon. And if you like this video, remember to like and subscribe. Check out my Instagram, my Reverb, and my Depop. And if you like what I'm doing here, drop a tip in the PayPal. And thank you all so much again for watching, and we'll see you on the flip side.